So welcome to the City Geographer and the Art of Living in the City. As these podcasts develop, they're not meant to define some idea about how folks should live their lives in the city or out, nor are they part of any research project. They're just some observations, suggestions and comments that might help to keep the brain constructively occupied in the ups and downs of community activism, and hopefully will help to inspire some involvement in the wide variety of campaigns, projects and events our city has to offer, and perhaps even inspire new ones. So the articles and podcasts in this series are meant to be a stepping stone or dipping a toe in the water kind of approach, and help to encourage ordinary people to think a bit more about public life. So they are not particularly aimed at the activists, although they should be of some interest in the activist community in thinking about different ways of engagement. That is, if we are to encourage the many people who will need to become involved in building a movement for change, a movement big enough to challenge the institutions and purveyors of our problems, such as banks, corporate speculators, investment companies, legal, media, government, think tanks, lobby groups, and every other profiteer whose career depends on our ignorance, poverty, and inability to act against them. Some of the main points in reaching new audiences and piquing folks' interests are to remember most working people do not have the time to study academic work or to sit around trying to figure out how the world works. Hopefully by fighting for change, they may acquire the time and a choice of doing so. But most are also tired from work. Family work takes time and all of the other pressures piled on. Pressures that folk 20 years ago hadn't even thought about, never mind worried about. But that is where we are today. And in this context, the important point is no matter how right we may think we are in the solutions we may have perfected, if they do not work within people's experiences, we will be left only talking to ourselves. So ideas need to be flexible and adaptable to different people's needs, and perhaps sometimes outside of our comfort zone. So the idea will be to make some short podcasts covering a variety of subject matter, to explore ideas that might help to encourage particularly the disenfranchised that there could be a place at the table that they can speak from. An attempt will be made to put out a podcast each week or so, or when other campaigning work allows, and we'll also encourage comment, conversations, events and guest speakers. The general thinking here is we have come to a juncture in communications. For many, there's too much of a passive reliance on the one-way traffic from the internet or corporate media news to find out what's going on. Along with peer-to-peer and closed groupings, a lack of intergenerational thinking, single-issue politics, conspiracy theories, that, along with powerful institutions that are using these things and every other kind of subterfuge, propaganda, scaremongering and downright lying to keep the public in the dark. But that last point is a good thing. It means that these institutions are becoming desperate. And desperation creates its own monsters, and their destructive work can be found in almost every aspect of our lives. But their desperation is also beginning to show up the cracks in their corrupt edifice, and they're widening as the lies become more outrageous and difficult to hide. So there's plenty of wiggle room in which to place our wedges of change. But as the saying goes, we cannot take down the master's house using the master's tools. We need to use our own tools that they cannot control. These tools are a bit more clunky, but have been proven to work long before the internet was invented. For instance, back in the day, a generation of students invented a new form of struggle against the dominant spectacle, the teach-in, a form taken up in Great Britain at the University of Edinburgh during the Rhodesian crisis. The US in the 60s saw students travel from the north in their summer breaks from college to the deep south to hold teach-ins and help black voters to register to vote. In the 1980s in Glasgow, we had the formation of the Free University that saw folk from all walks of life, from disaffected culture workers to the unemployed, meet up to discuss issues outside of the formal education setting. There was also the Free International University. The thing then was, as of now, where do you go to meet friends? Where is the social space in which to gather and discuss things without having to pay through the nose for a cup of coffee? So these are the same problems we're facing right now that we had back then. So it's about imagining we do not have the internet and thinking about these natural tools of communication and how the internet should enhance them, not replace them. In order to make a difference, most campaigning activists would probably agree 95% of it is about showing up, supporting and encouraging each other, and also seeing what comes up through our conversations and building solidarity. So that's hopefully what will be encouraged here, to reclaim the narrative in its human form. And as a comrade replied to some of these suggestions, it's important that we move from bemoaning the lack of engagement to actually addressing it. And to do that, ideas also need to speak to the folk who don't turn up. Otherwise we continue, as mentioned, only in speaking to ourselves.